make it practical for someone who's out there in a modern day world, maybe as someone, a corporate executive or very influential leader. How can they do this on a weekly or monthly basis, or do they have to go on the retreats?
So it all depends on the purpose. So I'm working on a darkroom concept for US right now to have it and be it more practical to your point, because I think the ideal time that more people will be willing to do this is the three-day mark, something that's like Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Now, I think some people have it, but most of them are sold out, or you have to follow certain protocols. But when it comes to darkness, so for me at the house, I actually have a dark room that's just like my meditational drop-in. But there is something about the timing of this, because it's always so intriguing how there's different phases that come throughout the darkness, and every 2 to 3 days there is like a new energy that you are dealing with. And so what's interesting is, like, if you don't come in fully detoxed, you spend the first 3-4 days just detoxing. And this last time I went, I didn't have time to do the proper preparation, like last year, for example. And I was suffering the first 3 days, sweating, just like, even just like quitting coffee. Imagine how many of us drink coffee every single day. And so just try to go off of coffee for 30 days and let me know how that feels.
Yeah.
So it can be tough. And that was one of my intention this time. I really wanted to go in and see if I can shave off all of the need for supplements, all of the need for other things, because so many times, we keep on reaching outside for help. And so the darkness really guides you and, allows you to go in. Now, once a year, I highly recommend this, but really once a lifetime. So anybody that just really wants to regroup within themselves, do you have to go to darkness? Absolutely not. I mean, you could go and rent a cabin, right, in the middle of South Africa, be in nature and silence and stillness. And so this is just, I think, the level of extreme that I've lived in my life, that I needed a level of extreme to withdraw from the life. So I think it's really, how far have you gone outside of yourself is how far you need to go inside.
Now, that's a very important point, because I think at the end of the day, even if you start just going into nature, not talking to someone for 3 days, and no iPhone and no podcasts and no music, and maybe like for 2 hours a day, you take a blindfold and you sit there and you just do breath work, or, I don't know, meditation. I mean, let's talk about that. How important is that to get to places where you're not getting the stimulation on your own, where you're not speaking, and this process of silence and solitude, which has been an ancestral practice for so long, which I don't think enough people do. And then when they continuously interacting with stimuli in the environment and people, their body doesn't get time to regenerate, rejuvenate, for them to really understand who they are and why they exist.
No, absolutely. And this is really what my why for life is giving people practical tools, because I think in this DNA age that we're living in, everybody really has to find their own tools that work for them. There's so much out there that is there for us. And, for me, it all goes back into a lifestyle. The way we spend time in life is what determines our energy frequency, how we're showing up, and do we have energy? Do we have a good sleep? And so I've actually built a very simple protocol, so to speak, of how you can, dive into these different, aspects, as well as an 8-point lifestyle that I live, that helps me kind of keep this journey through self-transformation going. Now,
Sure.
what have Darkroom taught me is something called a process of unhooking. And so to your point is, I've broken it down into a simple segments. So first thing in the morning, every single day, the first hour of the day, I don't go on my cell phone. I go straight as soon as I wake up. I do go into my morning ritual, my morning routine. And generally it's a breath work, it's meditation, it's visualization. I look at the outcomes of the day, how and where I want to go. I also, because we are prompt, if we don't go straight on our phone, we're prompt to be in the theta brainwaves, more of that flow state. which allows us to have these insights, right? To look into more of the creative side of things. And that way I determine the day in front of me, and my own choices are held inside of me, right? So that way I can, the outcomes and the consequences I see in my life are vividly, set in the morning. Now, once a week, I spend a full day off. This is the day that I put my cell phone on an airplane. I spend the first half of the day completely on my own, without kids, without families, without anyone. Because how do you know who you are if you never spend time with just that self, right? So same thing, I write things down, I do some exercise, I do everything different. So on that day, I do not drink coffee. I do not take supplements. I do everything to don't completely, all of our neurons are set and wired, and then we become so addictive to the same things that then we don't allow for new pathways to come. And so this is my day that I completely shatter everything that I know about myself so I can be open to the new. Now, once a month, I take 4 days off. And the reason why is if you've ever been to a vacation, it takes about 3 days just to drop in. A lot of times, the first couple days, agitation, like want to go on a phone, don't know what to do with myself. And then, the last 2 days of vacation, you don't want to leave because you finally dropped into that slower, subtle frequency. And so I look at life as a keynote. We can have the high note, we have the low note. They're all important. They're all different realizations of how we, express, but it's the choice and the dance between the highs and lows and the dance between creation and, taking a break. And so this is a 4 day of unhooking completely. And then once a year, I take 10 days in darkness. But again, generally, it could be 10 to 15 days off. And what I've noticed is I've learned this from my wife. When women are on a cycle, it happens to them physically, right? Where there is this shift and change. And I think a lot of company cultures are even now becoming aware of that. When you work within those cycles, everything is amazing. When you work against them, this is when friction and issues happen. And so men's have cycle as well. And we also cycle through different, experiences and different ways of expression. And so this is basically working within those cycles without having that physical reaction like women would have.